talk about world Jewry being a thing and how, it's an international cabal that works together, for the betterment of Israel, and they're located all across the world. And
something about the true free markets that Zionists can't stand.
Up next, we've got to check in with one of the biggest podcast stars in the world and YouTube celebrities, and that is Candace Owens, who is more right-wing or conservative in her political orientation, but these days she's kind of all over the place. She's the queen of conspiracies, and frankly, this is an unfortunate update. It's one, I think I've seen coming, but I think people need to acknowledge now, because Candace Owens has been accused over the last couple of years of anti-Semitism, of Jewish hatred and bias towards Jewish people. And I certainly don't believe that just because she opposes Israel, that means she must hate Jewish people or anything like that. I think there's a room for a wide array of debate and opinion on complicated geopolitical issues like the war in Gaza, like the U.S. support for Israel, all of that. I welcome debate on those issues, but she has definitely gone into dicey territory at times with some of her rhetoric about Jewish people and about Zionists. And unfortunately, I don't think that after this latest thing she just did, Candace Owens is ever going to beat the anti-Semitism allegations, because she just sat down for an extremely friendly podcast interview in her home with somebody who is one of the most toxic and obnoxious people in all of social media discourse and political commentary. His name is Myron Gaines of the Fresh and Fit podcast. He started as one of these alpha male, like dude bro advice givers. Of course, I don't think much of his advice about dating or women is good advice, but, set that aside. He is also, unfortunately, extremely openly anti-Semitic and hateful. Yet Myron just sat down with Candace for a friendly chat where they talked about feminism, Zionism, and Charlie Kirk. Now, what matters here for me is the fact that she chose to sit down with Myron despite herself having been accused of anti-Semitism. And I don't know about you, but if I was a person of good faith, of good nature, who did not have any hate in my heart for Jewish people, and people were accusing me of anti-Semitism, but I knew I was not, you know what I wouldn't do? I wouldn't sit down with an open Hitler lover and open anti-Semite for a friendly chat at my home studio and like we're buddy-buddy, and then talked with them about Jews and Zionism and all these related issues. I wouldn't do that. In fact, I would do the opposite. I would go out of my way to condemn anti-Semitism, to distance myself from genuinely hateful people while standing strong and firm in my beliefs about maybe opposing Israel or what have you. That is what I would do if I was a person of good faith wrongly being accused of anti-Semitism. Candace decided to do the opposite. She decided to team up with Myron for this long interview where he talks about like world Jewry and all this kind of out there stuff. And so you need to understand who Myron Gaines is. And this is probably going to get this video demonetized, honestly, but that's okay. It's worth doing. At least on YouTube it will. Here is a tweet from him that was just, I think, posted in October of this year. Yeah, we like Hitler. No one gives an F what you woke Jews think anymore. Bro was a revolutionary leader and saved Germany. The Jews declared war on Germany first. So he posted that last month. And Candace was like, yeah, I'm going to do a podcast with this guy. He's cool. Not helping you beat the anti-Semitism allegations. And unfortunately, it's not like this was a one-off thing. Just one time he was shit posting. He has this repeated pattern of just spewing the most open and vile anti-Semitic and just all around hateful. He really is an equal opportunity bigot rhetoric. I'm going to play a clip. And again, this clip is probably going to get me demonetized for this video, despite the rampant bleeping I will attempt to do on it. Still, here he is discussing Jewish people. And brace yourself, because this is very unpleasant, but this is Candace Owens' new best bud. Let's listen.
Hitler was right about y'all, because the reality is this: you guys come into a country, you push your pornography, you push your central banking, you push your degeneracy, you push the LGBT community, you push all this bullshit into a society, you destroy it from within, and then you guys go ahead and then you band together, you practice nepotism, you keep each other at the highest levels of echelons of government and everything else, you protect your fucking selves because you silence free speech, you silence anything that criticizes you, and then you get rid of them, and then you go and use stupid terms, fake terms like anti-Semitism. And if we fucking say the truth that these dreidel spinning, yarmulke wearing, kibbutz inhabiting, genocidal with their stupid curly little fucking sideburns, if we say the fucking truth about them, they ban us everywhere. These evil fucking dickheads.
I've seen that clip before. I cut and edited it this morning and I'm still shocked by it. Like, genuinely, he seems really stable and nice. Like, he seems like a fun guy to hang out with. I mean, no, look, joking aside, this dude is obviously anti-Semitic. That is not criticism of Israel. That is not opposing Zionism. That is virulent hatred of Jews and Jewish people simply because of who they are. And that is wrong and that is evil. And Candace Owens, again, I want to be clear that I'm not a no platformer. And I think if you were going to have a tough conversation with someone like Myron, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem. If you were going to say, Myron, I'm glad you're here. We agree that we're against Israel, but like, you've got to stop saying this stuff. You're discrediting the cause. If you were going to bring this up and challenge it, that would be a totally different story. Instead, they had a super friendly chit chat in her home studio where they chat about Zionism and like the Jewish conspiracies that they believe in, I guess. And it was, the interview itself wasn't as bad as like Myron's tweets or what we just listened to. Still, I do have a clip from it, but I just question even how can you say you're not anti-Semitic and then you're just best buds with people who say Hitler was right about y'all, like about the Jews, and go on these rants. To me, the math is not mathing, and Candace has officially said at absolute best, and remember, she's one of the most influential podcasters in the world now. Whether you like that or not, do not bury your head in the sand and convince yourself, oh, it's just a few people on Twitter that like her. That is not true. She's wildly popular, and she is at best totally indifferent to anti-Semitism and hate of Jews, despite the fact that it has led to the deaths of millions in not that distant human history. But and at worst, she affirmatively agrees with it and embraces it as her own. So here's a clip from the actual interview that they did together.
This topic is a very controversial topic when it comes to Zionism, Jewish power, and these other things. What made you say, I got to speak up on this?
I want to get into heaven. And I think people don't realize that that's real.
Because I talk, people try to tell me like, because I talk about world Jewry being a thing and how, it's an international cabal that works together, for the betterment of Israel, and they're located all across the world. And I use that example of how they got you literally banned in Australia, even though they represent like 2% of the population.
And there's something about the true free markets that Zionists can't stand. They're constantly manipulating the markets so that people think that they are number one, and they're not. They actually require censorship in order for them to be number one.
Yeah, and that's their game. And I seeing Ben Shapiro have a meltdown. They had the Republican Jewish coalition a couple weeks ago, and just saying like, oh, these people are platforming whatever. I find it interesting how like they never criticize what you guys talk about, right? They always criticize you guys directly, saying they're pushing anti-Semitism. Well, what are they saying that's anti-Semitic? Oh, well, it's just anti-Semitic. And they don't even want to have the discussion, the debate,
usually the truth
or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you hear Nick Fuentes' backstory, it's compelling. It just is.
So there's a lot in that little clip there. I talked about this. I do agree. Candace should not have been banned from Australia, but they did that not at the behest of the global Jewry, but because woke people run the government and she's far right and a bigot in their view, and they don't let people in to their country who have any sort of problematic or hateful views. That's a recurring free speech issue. It's not proof that the Jews run the globe or anything like that. And a couple other things here. He's like, they always say they never criticize the substance of what you say. They just call you anti-Semite. A lot of us actually do. Like, a lot of us have pointed out the many factual errors that Candace has made in her Charlie Kirk conspiracies. Lots of people have dived into the substance of the things she said. In this conversation, they were also talking about Tucker and Nick Fuentes and all these types. He's like, what's anti-Semitic? What's anti-Semitic? Maybe when Nick Fuentes says he loves Hitler, maybe when you mock them as like dreidel spinning long curly haired demons or whatever you did in your little rant. Yeah, that would be anti-Semitism, Myron. I don't know, maybe that's a big word for you. He really doesn't seem like the brightest bull, but I actually object to this in part because it's funny when I talk about stuff like this, people accuse me of being like an Israel shill or getting your $7,000 or anything like that. And that's a complete lie. I actually have a lot of concerns with the U.S.-Israel relationship. And that's kind of outside the lane of what I focus on because I don't know a ton about it. But to say I'm a big supporter or lover of Israel in terms of its government is simply not true. Right. And I listened to a lot of debate and conversation on that from across the spectrum in genuine good faith. What I don't stand for or tolerate is people who openly hate Jews and love Hitler. And unfortunately, Candace Owens does at this point. She embraces those people and doesn't distance herself from them in any meaningful sense. And so at some point, yeah, you're responsible for that. And I think if you were truly being wrongfully smeared as anti-Semitic, you wouldn't do that. You would make it clear that you aren't, in fact, best buds with this guy who thinks Hitler was right and that during the Holocaust, the Jews declared war on Germany. What a diabolical statement. Anyway, though, Myron is thrilled with how the interview went, and he loves Candace. Listen to this clip of him discussing afterwards on his stream after it aired. Because it also, to be clear, she's such a celebrity at this point that it's going to be like she's really helping him really grow his channel and his platform even bigger by doing it. It's already got I'm sure it'll hit 1 million views or close. It's already got like 250,000 in like a day. She is amplifying him by doing this interview. And you have to think about why that is when I'm sure she gets requests nowadays from all sorts of huge platforms and only grants a very select few. Why would she grant this one? Maybe because she likes him and agrees with a lot of what he's saying. And that is freaking scary and bleak, but he's thrilled with how it went. Let's listen to him.
Toxic masculinity.
And shout out to Candace Owens, man, for inviting her to her studio, treating us really well. She was a great host.
And books were written. And Lena Dunham.
Feel free to go check that out, guys. It was a really good interview. I really, I like Candace a lot. I really do. She's always been super cordial, super polite. When she came here last time, as you guys know, all the girls that work for me are super fans of hers. Candace is like the only female I always say, like, watch her content. Like, anyone on our side of the internet, guys, by the way, that goes at them boys, right? That's winning. I'm super happy. I'm glad that Tucker's all over the headlines. I'm glad that Nick's all over the headlines. I'm glad that Ken's all over the headlines.
So if this guy is a huge fan of you, given what a hateful, obnoxious person he is, that's not a great sign. And did you notice that? Did you catch that? He played the ka-ching sound on his soundboard. And he does that on his streams when he mentions Jewish people. In fact, he actually did that when Candace has been on his podcast or streams multiple times. And they talked about this in their interview, which I did listen to the full thing. I don't just pull little clips. They talked about how one of the things that he believes got her in trouble with the Daily Wire. I don't know, and she couldn't confirm or deny because of presumably like legal agreements and non-disclosures or something like that, is that she went on his podcast and when they were talking about Jews, he kept hitting the ka-ching soundboard, and that was one of the things that led to the pushback within Daily Wire that ultimately got her fired. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was interested to learn that he did that during a podcast because frankly, I think if you're in a podcast situation and somebody's doing something like that, the onus on you would be on you to say like, hey, what are you doing? That's not cool. That's not really funny. Like, do you mean that seriously? What are you suggesting? Like, but even if you don't do that in the moment, I could understand not everyone is super interested in conflict or quick on their feet on stuff like that. But when you have somebody who openly like mocks Jews as like money grubbing and controlling the world with their money and uses a soundboard to do this in such a blatantly anti-Semitic way. While it's not a joke, it's not stand up, right? He's loving Hitler and ranting about dreidels. Like, and then you have that experience with him and you're like, you know what? This is a guy I should really collab with more. Yeah, at some point that speaks to you and what you truly feel and believe. And I think it's pretty clear at this point that Candace Owens is never going to beat the anti-Semitic allegations. And that is a real disappointment that so many millions of people are continuing to tune into somebody who is quite clearly, at least to me, no longer, if she ever was, coming from a place of good faith. That's my take on all of it, but you guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit the like button as well. And with that, guys, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, I'm taking off a couple days for Cancun with some friends, so you might not get new content. I have some stuff scheduled, but you won't get as much new content over the next few days, and then we will be back at it next week. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we will talk again real soon.